Yeah, if it's only
Good morning, Keller Williams Prosperity. It is 11 a.m. and Mary Beth and I are here to do our shift series.
good
Uh, good
morning.
morning. Today's shift series, we're doing Tactic 1 in the shift book, which was pages 23 to pages 28, I believe, if you're following along at home. Today,
Mhm.
Tactic 1 is get real, get right, mindset, and action. So today, the two main things in this chapter was really about the mental shift and the action shift. So those are going to be the two main components that we'll be covering today.
Yeah.
So to start, um, Mary Beth, I don't know about you. This reminds me of the MREA, where the first, I don't know, I'd say 100 pages of the MREA is all about mindset and all about
Yeah.
you need to be in the right frame of mind. And I think with these tactics, if you don't master tactic 1, the rest of the tactics aren't going to, the dominoes aren't going to fall in place. So I think that this is a really big one to focus on first.
Yeah, I 100% agree. The tactic number one being specific and in title and in, you know, Kellerisms and whatnot, get real, get right, mindset and action. And it says here, Harvey Mackay, decide, which is a really key word in this tactic one, is decide what your priorities are and how much time you'll spend. If you don't, someone else will. And um, Gary says it again here because he said it in the first part, but Gary says it again here. Anyone can, not everyone will, but be and anyone can. And I said it, I think last week also. Oh, happy Monday. Um, is that there are going to be people that are going to fall out,
Mhm.
and I have 100%. I believe wholeheartedly that our people, every single last one of them, can be and anyone can. So um,
Absolutely.
another thing that is really cool here is in the chapter they open up with one of my favorite books. And if you can see, I got a bookshelf. I was just telling my husband I'm going to need a couple more bookshelves.
Yeah.
Um, but one of my favorite books, and it was given to me by my first broker. It references it in the first sentence of this chapter. It's called The Traveler's Gift. Did you ever read that?
I haven't actually. Tell me more about it.
Yeah. Okay. So one of my favorite lessons that the character learns, and his name was David Ponder, is the character.
Hmm.
It's this guy. He goes through time, and each chapter is a different historical
Oh, you did tell me about this.
person.
Yes. They go through like the
Yeah.
Civil War, like different places in time.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
he visits with Anne Frank one time. And so the whole entire point of the book though is that all of those choices that are made actually, you know, create the end result. It just goes to show that every single choice matters.
Hmm.
And one of my favorite lessons that he learns there is discipline your disappointment.
Yeah.
And we talked about that a little bit even at family reunion. Discipline your disappointments. Don't set expectations, and don't people are going to disappoint you, but if you've set expectations, or if you have expectations of something, that's what you're getting disappointed by. It's not the people per se. It's just whatever your expectation was in something is getting altered, shattered. And so I think it brings it home to what we're going through right now. Most of us thought in March 23rd at 11 a.m. on a Monday,
Yeah.
we'd be going out to our newest seller's house to go get that property listed so we could hit the market live for Wednesday. And
Yeah.
that is not our reality right now, right?
No, and I think
So,
kind of taking off from where you left off. I read. I think Gary Keller posted something on Facebook. It was either Saturday or Sunday over the weekend, and it was really powerful. And it was another, as we're talking about uh, you know, mind shift and shifting. He was saying, think about where you want to be 2 years from now. Like this
yeah,
is a disruptor. This is something that's happening today, but don't lose track of where you want to go and the activities you need to do today, and what you're doing and what you have been doing may need to change. Like the activities that you were doing
for
need
sure.
to change and shift with the market shift. So just like anything else, you need to think about where you want to be 2 years from now. And as it says in the shift here, the shift book, because it kind of segues into that, it says to survive a shift, you must first make the mental shift to run towards what you most want and avoid the
Yeah.
temptation of running away from what you most fear. Um,
Yep.
and I highlighted that in my book just because I do think that anytime there's a disruption or anytime like right now there's a pandemic or whether it's 9/11, whether it was 07, 08, there's always that feel of that you want to shut down or that you want to just like wait and see what happens as opposed to
Yeah.
running and attacking the situation rather than taking a step back.
Well, I think because most people are afraid that if they run towards it, maybe it's the wrong thing. Maybe they're going to make a mistake, or
Mhm.
and the chances are we might be failing forward on some steps because this is unknown territory. You know, as my pastor was saying, he's never pastored a church in a pandemic.
Yep.
Our president's never led our country in a pandemic, and we've never led a market center, and our agents have never led their business, their real estate business, in a pandemic. So once again, sellers and buyers have never bought or sold in a pandemic, and so this is new, and we have to be flexible. But we do have to also own the fact that our choices, whether we choose to move or not to move, are ultimately going to make us. And if we want to shift properly, and as Gary and Jay are suggesting in shift tactic one, is we have to see opportunities
Yep.
and we have to take action towards them, as you kind of stated here.
Yep.
Keeping your eyes both on both targets. Um, you have to keep your eye on your target. You can't change that. You just might need to go about it a different way.
Absolutely. And I think for those who've been in the business for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, um, I think it comes down to what Gary writes on page 25, which is judge your success over the length of your career, not the high or low of any single year. Know that growth
Yes,
comes
I
from
highly like
clarity,
that.
priorities, and focused action. And I think that that's important too in terms of when we're talking about mindset, because I think it's very easy to look at this and be like, okay, well, 2020 is going to be a really bad year, or 2020 is now going to be awful, or and I think people who are seasoned in the industry knows that they've survived things like this, and you've talked about that surviving a couple shifts. So I think it's
Yeah.
just knowing that this one year is not going to define your career.
Yeah, and so also on page 25, I love how he talks about the tides.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah, talk
so
about that.
yeah, I'll read it right here. It says most people lead with the flow, with the tides kind of life.
Hmm.
Okay, so when it says when the tides are high, all boats float at high tide.
Yep.
And so I would agree that we've been in a high tide moment for the last couple of years, especially with mortgage rates where they've been. We've definitely been at high tide, and so all boats float. And yet, are you on the rocks or are you out at sea? When
Yep.
times get tough, the tide goes out. All of a sudden, not everything works. And so when that happens, that it's going to you'll be revealed if you are going to sharpen your axe and master some new skills, or maybe some old skills that you maybe got
Mhm.
you slacked on a little bit. Um, but the choice is yours ultimately as to whether or not you're going to be taken by the storm, or if you're going to survive it.
Absolutely, and I think that was a very powerful thing that I had read as well, because that does really go back to, are you running towards activities, or are you running away, and are you pausing, and are you waiting? Um,
Right.
so I think that shifts into really the next part of the chapter, which is
Well,
the
and one other
okay.
thing, too, is that Gary does reassure us again, know that there's always enough business for you to survive the minimum income. And so some of us panic because maybe our income is not going to be what we have been experiencing it at.
Mhm.
But this is also a time for us to get the right mindset as to, hey, listen, we might have to just live a little bit below where we've been living, and be smart about some stuff, get our mindset right, and know what real necessities are, minimize those expenses for us in a personal way as well. And our minimum income is out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, So with that, I think we can shift to the next part of this chapter, which is pages 26 to 28, which is really about the action shift, where they say the difference between a career worth having and a career worth heaving is the amount of focused action you take
Yeah,
every day and consistent action you're taking every day. Um, and
yeah,
so really it shifts to what do I do right now, what must be done right, and what must be done now. Um,
right.
and that kind of shifts in, and you can talk a little bit about this, but I did kind of see in the next couple pages, it kind of talks a little bit both about what to do if you're an individual agent, but then also if
Yes,
you're a rainmaker or a team owner, ultimately taking, the dollar making activities back to make sure that if that's what you're best at, to make sure that those activities
yeah.
aren't being lost and that you're still owning them. So if you want to talk a little
Hey,
bit about
I agree, and I actually wrote that down too. I wrote teams there.
that.
That the clarity will be revealed in teams, and I'll get to teams in a second. But on an individual agent, because we all were there or
Mhm.
are there. Once again, when the tides are high and the business is pretty easy to get, referrals come easily. Open houses, people are just coming through just from a simple ad. Maybe we didn't have to go above and beyond. And so, even as a single agent, you may not have needed to prospect or lead generate like you're going to.
Mhm.
Okay. So now it just becomes clear what was working for you to get clients, what do you need to do more of, what was a waste of time because you only have so much time and so many ways to connect with people in this arena right now. However, whether, like I said, whether you're a single agent or you're a team, you do need
Mhm.
to go back to the basics. We need to get to the fundamental ways of building business, which is through relationships.
Yep.
And I know that we just heard from Aaron Wittenstein
Mhm.
from White Plains that New York, they banned cold calling.
Yep.
That might happen in New Jersey, but that doesn't mean that you can't call your sphere of influence and into your database to check in on everybody, see if there's some opportunities for, we're going to be talking about investment, refinance, it's all sorts of opportunities that will come out from this market.
Mhm.
So prospecting into the database is something that I think that single agents are going to own back and start to get real serious about. As far as teams, I think it's going to be very, very telling as to what our team members, well, a, what kind of support and structure are our rainmakers giving to our team
Mhm.
members, but then also what our team members are they prospecting, or are they just working off of the extra, the abundant that comes from a rainmaker?
Mhm.
Now, as far as a rainmaker, what better, no better time than to dive back into the basics and be making those calls with your team as well
Yep.
to see what kind of true conversion rates they're getting from buyers and sellers in this type of environment.
Yeah, well, and I I would say to that, I've made a bunch of calls just to friends, family, coworkers, whomever. People are home right now, so there's
Yeah,
no better time to be reaching out and to be checking in and just be consistently building those relationships with your clients, with your friends, with family, with whomever. People are bored at home right now to where they want to take calls. Like the bold, the chant that
they're
we would
home, they're
do.
happy, and they want to listen
Yeah.
to me.
you know, that's what I kind of feel like right now. It's that they are home, they're happy, and they do want to talk to us because they they want to pass time. So I think if you haven't done so already, now is really the time to. What are you waiting for? I mean, now is the best time to be connecting with people. Um, and with that, to to kind of go back to what you were saying in the book, and whether it's again individual or whether it's a team, the two biggest things that everyone needs to focus on is lead generating and lead conversion. You need to be
Yep.
able to lead generate every day. And I've heard, typically it was 2 to 3 hours a morning. Now I've heard some MAPS coaches are increasing that to 4 hours a day. And then it's also being with lead generating, it's also then tracking. And if you don't have a tracking system, tracking what are your conversion numbers and what are your conversion rates, because in a shift, more than
Yeah.
ever, you need to be on top of your numbers and you need to know what those numbers look like.
Sure. So, I mean, if there's a simple way, it's just start tracking how many conversations you're having.
Hmm.
and make sure that in your conversations you're being super purposeful to talk about what is going on with the market, what we're experiencing.
Yep.
We have some calls lined up this week that I do believe we're going to get a good feel from agents that have bigger businesses to see what is going on throughout the country.
Hmm.
And so I think, like in anything, we need to understand what is first, and then we could prescribe what the remedy is. So when we see what the struggle is, I know we're in a lot of curiosity as to will we get put to a complete shutdown. But I do believe our team, our brilliant Bill, I love Bill Boswell, but Bill really put together a fantastic commitment to our
Yep.
sellers and buyers that we can continue to move them.
Yep.
So if you guys haven't seen that, I would strongly advise you really read all the font that is on that flyer about, the moving, the commitment for moving.
Yeah, he just posted that on Facebook, and I think Allison had sent that out via Constant Contact last night. So if you don't have it, let us know.
Yeah.
But definitely read through that.
And feel free to share it with other real estate agents to show them that we are doing things differently and we're getting our agents prepared to work with clients up to a certain point to then allow them to be in contract with something so that when the restrictions do get lifted, we can go ahead and have closings
Yeah.
and fill up that pipeline, right? So taking action, get
Yeah.
back to what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Taking action. So getting our mindset right and then getting our actions right. One thing I wrote down here was the old E plus R equals O. We cannot change the event. We
Yeah.
can change our reaction to the event. And the
Absolutely.
and the O is our outcome. So the event plus our reaction is going to ultimately give us our outcome. And we can only control our attitude, the way we look at things, and the opportunities we see in things.
Yeah. No, I love that, and that kind of ties into one of the notes that I had, how you react to something, and also what Gary says. I think, and he had said this. I think it was at family reunion, maybe, or mega camp last year or the year before, and it just really resonated with me, and I didn't realize it was written right in the shift book too. But he had said, the fundamentals is what, you know people try to get away from just the fundamentals of, when things are booming and things are going really well, they try to add their own little spin to the, what the tried and true methods that work in the MREA and in the shift book. But it's all about the fundamentals and getting back to that, and not, trying to do what's sexy or what's exciting, but getting back to just the nitty
Yeah.
gritty, just the fundamentals. And I think that really resonated with me because, one of the things he writes here is, he says, we succeed in good times not only because of what we do right, but also in spite of what we do wrong.
Yep.
So in good times, you can afford to make some mistakes and you're probably not even going to notice. Yet, as he writes then down towards the bottom of page 28, he writes, the top agents become top agents by mastering the fundamentals. Maybe the reason the basics are so often abandoned is the fact that they aren't special, unique, or new. When
Yep.
businesses get tight, they reveal themselves as the timeless factors that determine the difference between success or failure. So that really
Yeah.
resonated with me because, it is about getting back to the basics and about getting back to the fundamentals.
Gary always said success is boring, it's monotony, it's the same of the same, it's not really exciting. And that's why agents and leadership and high salespeople at heart get bored with certain things. And this would not be the time to get bored, to pick up and start doing this, doing that. Stay focused, get into maybe one lead generation tactic that's really, really working, and like
Mhm.
go deep with it.
Yep.
And I believe because of the temperature that we have right now, it's going to be getting into your database. It's
Yeah.
going to be getting real deep with those people, past clients, friends, family, neighbors, community. What better time than to have a community-based business? If you haven't had the time to put into it, think about how much time you just got back because you don't have to be traveling to your appointments, to the office,
Mhm.
and think about maybe giving that 1 hour into like a community based type of uh outreach, create your own. It's really a great, also another great opportunity to get visible in your community, because everybody's, looking at all these different types of platforms. So, any last thoughts on Get Real, Get Right, mindset in action before we open it up? We have a few guests today,
Yeah.
so maybe we should just ask them if they have any questions.
Yeah, I think, just kind of what you were saying. I think with the mindset, it's just, not letting this defeat you, or not letting this feel like you shouldn't be proactive and getting out there. So I think it's just critical to just be smart, hit the fundamentals, and just not let this, stop your business or even put it on
Yeah.
pause. That you should still be doing the activities.
Now, I would say one thing is, I was talking to Bill over the weekend, and he put things in perspective for his family, and we're the same in our household as well, is knowing that China just came out of it, seeing how long it took China to come out of it, right? And knowing that if worst case scenario, it's the same amount of time, what would be the worst case scenario in our businesses? And would it still be okay? Because at the end of the day, 3-4 months, even if it's 6 months, even if it knocked us out, I know I would encourage you, call your mortgage company and see if you could get that payment held, if you're in that kind of situation. Or if you're not, then keep paying it. But there are some reliefs out there. But if worst case scenario happens, we could build it all over again. Everybody's in the same boat. We'll be fine as long as we have our health, we have our family, we have our mindset. Because if we lose our mind, then we're done with.
Done.
So I'm going to encourage you guys to keep revisiting this chapter also as we go through this, because 1 week, 2 weeks, okay. Once we're in the house for a month, if it does get to 2 months, we're going to probably need to revisit this chapter weekly, daily.
Yep.
And so mindset is going to be extremely important through these times,
Yeah,
not only for your business, but for your families.
absolutely. So I guess with that, let's turn the floor over to, if there are any questions, like for those watching, in the chat box. Just type a question, fill it out, and we'll be able to answer it. So, please, any questions? We'd love to take them now before we close out.
Yeah. And also, as a reminder, audible.com, Jay Papasan and Gary Keller have allowed everyone to be able to download Shift on audible.com. So that was a nice gift of the Shift. And one other gift of the Shift is that marketing piece that we were just talking about before. I would highly advise everybody that listens to this call to share that form with at least one of your closest co-brokes.
Yep.
To show them that there is a way to work with you on transactions during this shift.
Yep.
And that you're there for them. So,
good.
Anybody have any questions?
If not, I've had a couple people text me while we've been on here saying, "What time's your shift class? What time's your shift class?" So tomorrow, I'm sure we will have a larger audience. Which tomorrow we're going to be doing Tactic 2, which I know, Mary Beth, this is, I think, one of your favorite chapters, or best chapters to talk on, in my opinion, which is remargining your business, expense management. So we'll be talking about that. That's pages 29 through
36.
36, yeah. So today, oh wait, let's see, Chris, we do have a question. People have a tendency to be frozen during these times. Mindset is critical. One tip to stay above the fray. So what would be the best tip that you would offer as advice to people who might dip, to prevent that from happening?
So I personally know that I would have a tendency to dip. So for me, and it's a personal thing, scripture and music, worship music. We have a daily devotional. For some of us, maybe you have different types of devotionals. There's tons of stuff online that you can sign up for so that you can receive a message of the day. I would encourage that. I would also encourage keeping your alarm clock set for a
Mhm.
certain time every day.
Yep.
I said to my husband, I will be getting dressed and showered every day.
Yep.
So just keeping some set reminders inside your phone that, hey, we're having a normal, regular day.
Yeah.
And also keeping your planner full,
Yep.
whether it's through your electronic Google Calendar or through a paper planner, keeping your planner full just as if you were to run any normal week. Sundays, setting some time aside to see what your week is going to be like, set your goals. Those of you who use a 411, I would use a 411 or a
Yep.
GPS, a 135, and stick to what we were doing before. Also, I would, which I'm trying to do, FaceTiming a lot with family that I'm not able to see so that I can feel as if we're living a normal life,
Mhm.
and making sure that my meetings that I was regularly holding in the office with my staff and my team, we're
Yep.
still having them in a video fashion so that I can still see people.
Yeah.
That's just some things that I'm doing. Plus, I would encourage reading.
Yeah.
There's some really great books out there. And for those of you who haven't already, John Maxwell had a leadership in crisis
Mhm.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, a 4 series part. And there's tons of leaders that are out there hosting them as well. So find somebody that you love to listen to, and just get more of them every day, and
Yeah.
exercise. Figure out a routine now that you're not driving. Maybe
Yep.
figure out a routine.
Yeah. No, I would echo exactly what you're saying. The one thing that I thought of when I read the question was just making sure your day is still time blocked,
Yes.
because I think it's very, like, for me, I was even saying this to you before we got on the call. I've been busier these last 3 days because I've committed, like, I'm 100% mentally at home. I'm 100% mentally committed to my calendar. Um, that I don't feel like that dip of, like, oh, well, let me watch TV, or oh, let me do laundry, or let me, like,
Yeah.
I'm very like, okay, we got the 11 o'clock call, the 1 o'clock call, 4 o'clock, the 8:30 in the morning call. I'm waking up still at 6:30 in the morning. I'm showering. I'm eating breakfast. Like, I'm keeping my schedule the exact same as I would as if I was
Are
driving
you
into the
drinking your
office.
water?
I'm drinking my water. I've got my, my Poland Spring. I always, I always have one of those every morning. Um, so, I'm keeping everything as normal as possible, like, because you do need a sense of normalcy, because if everything feels chaotic, then it's
Yeah.
like you just kind of dip into not having any structure to your day. So I said, and to echo your, I've been reading as well. So, you know,
Yeah.
whether it's motivational books, whether it's just a fiction book, it's just something keeping your mind sharp, keeping your mind
Keeping your
active,
mind sharp. Hmm.
um, and all of that. So I think uh, that's the best way to stay, afloat.
Yeah. So I hope that helped, Chris.
Yeah.
Agreed. Great tip.
Yes. Yes. Check
Yes,
the news.
yes. Stay away from the news. Only
Yes.
once a day, Christine says.
Yeah, which I would
Good
100%
job.
agree with, because I used to be looking at that a little bit more, and it was just too depressing. So now it's like I'll check
Too
alerts
much.
once a
Too
day.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All
Well, it
right.
is now almost 11:30, so we appreciate those of you who plugged in. We'll definitely have more tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll do shift tactic number 2. Um, if you guys have any questions, just reach out to us anytime. Thanks for tuning in.
Okay, guys.
Bye.
Bye.